to law school and have been practicing law in town since 2012.
And so your ties go pretty deep in the community. Have you been active in the community most of your adult life?
Yes, I mean, I've always been politically active, even since high school, and served on a couple of metro boards, including this one in the past, and some nonprofit boards over the years as well.
Right. And you bought a house at some point in time with your wife. When was that, and where was that house?
We got married in 2013 and bought a house on 2nd Avenue South in Chestnut Hill, so a mile or just under a mile maybe from the fairgrounds. She also owned a bakery in Wedgwood, Houston, so she had some proximity to the fairgrounds as well. We eventually sold that house a couple years ago, live in the Belmont-Hillsborough area now. Her bakery now is on the other side of the fairgrounds in the Woodbine area, and she, and my business, my law firm, is back in my old neighborhood, just off of, it's on Representative John Lewis Way, just north of the Nashville City Cemetery.
Okay. And to your knowledge, all the complainants, other than yourself, are in the neighborhood, is that correct?
Yes.
And you're kind of in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I've got a long history there and a lot of connections to that neighborhood.
Okay. All right, now, you're also president of an organization named CARE, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and what does CARE stand for?
CARE is Citizens Against Racetrack Expansion.
Okay. So I'm going to circle back in just a minute, talk more about your role in that. But what's basically the mission of CARE?
CARE is a neighborhood group that organized in 2022, I believe, to try, there had already been a neighborhood group for several years in the fairgrounds vicinity that was opposing the effort to expand the racetrack and do sort of a more high-intensity NASCAR racing there. We organized to try to supplement their work, but also to make it more of a citywide issue, to help people understand that this wasn't really just about neighbors who are annoyed with noise, but it's also about how we spend our city's resources, what our priorities are, and if we want to have more sort of invasive tourism or sort of, you know, it's like putting a football stadium in a neighborhood, putting a NASCAR track in a neighborhood is not what we want for our city. So we got together and started working on that.
Okay. And NASCAR was here previously, right?
Racing was, and NASCAR was, I guess, a long time ago.
Right.
And NASCAR does exist in Wilson County even to this day.
And NASCAR decided to pull up and leave in 1986, is that right?
That sounds right to me.
Right, okay. All right. All right, so let's go back to CARE just for a minute. So tell me who or what CARE is, what's it organized under in terms of the tax code, let's say?
CARE is a 501c4 organization, so it's organized to do issue advocacy and racetrack expansion. Opposing racetrack expansion is the issue that we organized around. It's had a number of board members over the years and some help in terms of community organizers. You know, we did things like, we did send out some mail pieces around signs and we just tried to have a platform for people who are opposing it to speak out on behalf of.
I'm going to interrupt here. What time period was that? You said around the time the mail pieces were sent out, around the time NASCAR was being considered. Can you give us the time frame?
Sure. So I believe that the Fair Board voted on the proposal in the first half, spring, I think, of 2023. Yeah, March of 2023. And I'm trying to remember how far in advance of that CARE started, sometime, I think, in 2022. Because it was obvious that this was coming. It's been a long-running effort. I mean, there was a charter referendum many years ago about it as well.
Okay, can you tell me who are the people who support CARE financially?
I can't tell you specifically, in part because I don't even know, but in part because as a 501c4 we don't disclose our donors. It is a broad coalition of people, but you know, it's not something that I even have any transparency into.
So one of the things donors know when they give money is that their name cannot be disclosed. Is that
that's right.
That's how 501c4 generally works?
Yeah, I mean, so the analogy is that transit referendum last year, whenever that was, that campaign, I believe, was structured as a 501c4. You can speak out on issues, you don't endorse candidates, you don't oppose candidates, but you can raise issues for public discussion, and unlike a 501c3, donors have anonymity in a 501c4.
But you are paid to be the president of CARE, is that correct?
I'm not paid to be the president of CARE.
Oh, okay.
I have been paid to do legal and consulting services for the organization over the years.
Thank you. Sorry for that. Thank you for that distinction.
Yeah.
Are you here today as the president of CARE, or why are you here today?
No, I'm here on my own. As a citizen, I didn't ask anybody's approval to do this. This is something that I felt strongly about, and when in the last few months this kind of came back to a head, I decided I needed to do something about it.
Okay. All right, so let's go through the timeline, because it is somewhat confusing, and I apologize to the board that we didn't kind of start with the timeline, because it is awfully confusing. All right, so as we talked about earlier, there was a proposal that the then Mayor Cooper supported that was, what happened at the Fair Board in March, and what was that vote?
The Fair Board approved the proposal by Speedway Motorsports, Inc. to expand the racetrack and allow NASCAR racing there, basically to turn it into a 30,000 seat venue.
What is it now?
It's 10 or something, maybe it's
15
15.
maybe?
It's
Okay.
something.
17.5.
The gentleman behind me says 17.5, I can't tell you with specificity. So it's to expand it, to allow for, concerts and racing to occur there, and NASCAR racing to occur there as well. I will say that the Fair Board did have a couple of, at least, of community meetings about that, because I attended them. I don't know anything about the notice that went out or what was required, but I remember going to one at the, I think it's the Knowles Senior Center right there adjacent to the fairgrounds, and there was one at Geodis Park, and I spoke at least one of those, and I remember standing in lines and one person for, one person against, one person for, one person against.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt? The community meetings, were they Fair Board meetings, or who convened the meetings?
I believe that they were Fair Board listening sessions, because I remember the members of the Fair Board sitting up there, and so I can't say that another entity wasn't involved in convening them, or a council member or something like that, but I do know that the Fair Board was there, and in fact, that's probably the only time I've spoken with Chairman Hendricks, was just in that public.
Before March of 2023?
Yes,
Do you recall what the vote was at the Fair Board?
it was 3-2.
Okay, so 3, 4, 2 against. Okay.
Correct.
Now, you have been involved in the political process for many years. If it did pass the Fair Board, but would it also have to get approval from other metro bodies before it became activated or legally binding on the city?
Yes, so the way this one worked was the Fair Board approved it, and then I believe it had to go to the Metro Sports Authority because it involved the issuance of bonds, and I think the Metro Sports Authority has the ability to issue bonds. My recollection is it never got a vote in front of the Sports Authority, and then it would have gone to the Metro Council, but the council never considered it either.
Okay, and if there is an action or a contract that has to be approved by Metro Council, but it also has to be approved by subsidiary Metro entities, what is the normal process and timeline for that? Like, who goes first, who goes last, that kind of thing?
Only one of us here has been the Metro Legal Director and the Metro Finance Director before, but my recollection, my understanding of that process is, the individual board that is dealing with it would go first, and then the funding mechanism in terms of the authority that has the bonding capacity goes second, and only then does it get to the full council for consideration.
Okay.
And that's, it takes 3 readings, there's a whole process associated with that. And, this was playing out throughout, in this case, 2020, most of 2023, I would say.
Okay.
Until the mayor, I think once the mayor left, that ended that conversation, and a new council was sworn in after that.
So it's not unusual,
And just remind us when the mayor left, 20, was a
So
month.
the election would
September
have been,
2023.
September
October,
2023.
September.
September.
Right.
August
Excuse
is
me,
the
council-
general,
council
and then
member.
September is for the runoff.
Okay.
Okay, it's not unusual for, once a transaction goes for approval for council, that session ends. It's not unusual for most people in the public or in the political scene to consider that as kind of dead. Is that fair to say? Maybe not legally, because the Fair Board has an approval out there hanging, but generally speaking, among the political people, how would you view the fairground, the racetrack expansion proposal at that time?
my perception of it, because the mayor and the council ended their term, my perception of it was that it was over for all intents and purposes, and if it was gonna come back, it would come back to the Fair Board again, and then the Sports Authority, and then the council. And that's just kind of what I understood the process to be.
Okay. So you and your fellow complainants are obviously not in favor of racetrack expansion, clearly, right?
That's right.
But you also understand there's another side to that issue, right?
Sure.
And others may be for that, right?
Yeah.
So what does your organization want out of the process, I guess?
And let me speak to what the organization wants out of the process, and then I want to say, because
You
I'm
and
not,
your complainants,
I'm
sorry.
not here on behalf of the organization. I mean,
Right.
all right, let's put the organization aside. I
Yeah.
think what I want and what my fellow complainants want is a fair process where, nothing is being negotiated out of the public light. We have these rules for consideration of proposals. We have rules about people accepting special benefits from or associated with, or from anyone, frankly, but including if you have business in front of your board. And so I would like to see a process on the up and up. Right now, the Fair Board has only had 4 members for quite a long time. And so, I just want a fair, transparent, open process. And I recognize, I've lost before on this specific issue, and I may lose again.
Yeah. Do you have a question?
I do.
Can I just ask one thing? No, go ahead.
You said that your understanding of the process would be that the matter would go back to the Fair Board again, and then Sports Authority, and then Metro Council. Why would it need to go back to the Fair Board?
Number one, so I'm not sure from a legal perspective that it has to, but my understanding is because no action was taken on that prior deal, that same deal wouldn't just come back, that there would be, if it came back at all, it would come back in a different form.
So my question was going to be, after the vote in March of '23, 3-2 vote, the next step was to go to the Metro Sports Authority to deal with the bonding issue. Do you have any knowledge about why that never occurred?
I don't know what caused them not to, because I showed up at a public meeting thinking that they were going to vote on it on some morning. The meeting was at Titans Stadium, Nissan Stadium. So I guess my understanding was that the prior mayor had just sort of said, we're not gonna push forward with this at this
Mayor
time.
Cooper.
Yes,
You showed up at a Metro Sports Authority public meeting?
yes,
And you thought they'd vote on the bonding issue.
yes,
Didn't happen.
no.
And that, so we're getting closer to the, so
Fall of 2023?
fall, so, but Mayor Cooper was kind of heading out at that point and was not expecting it to go forward on the bonding, leaving that for the next administration. Is that what your understanding was?
Yes, more or less. I thought if he's not going forward with it, then it's not going forward. And maybe some other thing would come down the pike, but, I was listening to what Mayor O'Connell was saying about wanting to have a public process, so I didn't really expect it to just immediately come back. And, frankly, it hasn't just immediately come back. It's taken some time.
But, so it kind of stalled out or was killed, depending on your perspective, at the bonding, at the funding stage,
I think
in a
that-
sense.
I think that's fair.
And there was a transition between mayors. The first mayor, Mayor Cooper, was for it, I think spoke for this deal. transition, and the new mayor, Mayor O'Connell was saying, gonna be public process, didn't commit one way or the other to going forward with the funding or not. It was kind of frozen or dead, depending on characterization.
Yeah,
Is that-
I think that's all fair. And my perception was that he was, had run on a platform of being against these big kind of sports deals, and so I felt like that's just politically speaking, that maybe it wouldn't come back at all, perhaps.
Did this current administration ever specifically say the deal was, the existing deal from '23 was dead?
Not to my knowledge, I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Okay. Okay.
So, going back to 2023, at what point during that year did you, from your perspective, consider the deal to be dead?
I would say after the Sports Authority didn't issue the bond, didn't vote to approve bonding for it.
And
'Cause,
I'm sorry, refresh me the date on that meeting.
boy, I do not know, but it would be sometime between March and September.
September of '23.
And when they didn't go forward, was there a comment, either at that public meeting or otherwise, recognizing that they were taking action not to go forward with the bonding?
I don't think so. I think it just fell off the agenda. This is my recollection. They just didn't take a vote or have a discussion about it. That's my recollection, but I would defer to the minutes of the Sports Authority's meetings.
If a mayor no longer pushes forward a particular, or advocates, no longer advocates for a particular transaction, what is a typical reason why that might be?
It could be financial, or it could be about political will, and it can also be sort of about running out of time and having other priorities. And I thought that all three of those had,
Do you have a feel of whether he had the support at either the Sports Authority or the council to get this deal passed?
I didn't think so, but, you know, you're nervous at any point because you don't know if there have been other conversations that you're not privy to. But I didn't believe that he could have gotten the deal approved, at council in particular.
I don't want to get ahead of you, but I have a question. What's your understanding of the current status of the deal?
Do you want to, me answer that now, or do you want me to continue?
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's why I said I didn't want to get
It's
ahead of
great that you
you.
reminded me, because sometimes I don't look at my
Okay.
That's where we're going.
So I appreciate that reminder. Okay, so as far as you and your fellow people who are against the racetrack expansion are concerned, kind of a good deal, right? It's like, I think we won.
Yeah, I think everybody breathed a sigh of relief, and then we sort of moved into a phase of trying to keep our ears open to see if something was gonna come back to the Fair Board, or I suppose in some other, you know, straight to the council, that would be a surprise, but, you know, if some other, you know, proposal was gonna come up.
Okay. Are you aware of a group called Fairground Preservation Partners?
Yes, I'm not really involved in that group, but I was familiar with it. It started in late 2023, I think, sometime in 2023, and it was a group of, there were some music industry representatives, there were some hospitality industry representatives, and maybe some environmental representatives, and they were proposing like a new, they talked about Cumberland Yard being the initial name for the fairgrounds, and they were trying to sort of bring it, use the history of the place to talk about how it should look in the future.
Okay. And you aware that they actually brought a proposal to Mayor O'Connell's administration?
I believe that, I remember there was they met with the mayor and presented him with a proposal. That sounds right.
Okay. Now, on November 23rd.
Just right there,
Yes.
what did it look like? What was Cumberland Yards? What was the proposal?
I think there was an affordable housing component to it, and maybe with an emphasis on artists, you know, sort of like what's in Rolling Mill Hill, kind of, I think, over here, where there's some, it's for, you know, people who play on Lower Broadway, for example, play music, but, you know, can't afford to live in Nashville. So it's trying to meet some of that need and general affordable housing need, and maybe some even some musician practice spaces or something like that, if I remember, or maybe a small venue.
And in terms of the footprint of this Fairground Preservation Partners proposal, that would be other than and exclude the NASCAR expansion. It was an alternative proposal for the same general geographic space. Is that right?
Yes, I think so. I think it was designed to
As a-
be in lieu of
In lieu
racing
of,
at the
right.
fairgrounds.
Okay.
Or at least racing as we've known it historically.
Okay.
Because that was in late November of '23. And then, did Mr. Hendricks make any comment about this effort of Fairground Preservation Partners?
Yeah, I do remember at the time there was a story, there's a WSMV story, and maybe another story I saw, and he referred to that group as an illegitimate special interest group. And, you know, my perception was they were trying to provide an alternative to the NASCAR proposal. And I heard him in his opening remarks today say, nobody's ever produced an alternative. And, you know, in my view, when they did, he called them an illegitimate special interest group.
Did he make any statement about the old transaction, which he may very well think it's still alive because the Fair Board passed it, I understand that. Did he make any comment about that transaction that you recall?
At that time, I can't remember if he said that that deal is dead or something like that. I remember eventually there was some characterization of a new deal versus a
Okay.
prior deal.
That's later on.
Okay.
We'll move on.
Okay. If you want to remind me, I'm happy to.
That's not that important. Okay, then let's go to this famous NASCAR event on November 30th, okay, which Ms. Lanier also talked about. Why don't you talk to me about that? That was November 30th. And
Yes.
so, and how did you find out about this and what did you see?
I found out about it on social media. I didn't actually know that NASCAR was hosting its annual awards gala in Nashville. But because there had been this recent chatter about Fairgrounds Preservation Partners and Mr. Hendricks coming out of the media and calling it an illegitimate special interest, I looked at his social media, which is open to the public. Like, I don't follow him on social media, but you can just see it. And that's where I saw that he had gone to this banquet and posted pictures of himself with NASCAR drivers and on a red carpet. And I was curious about that because in my experience, if you're on the board of a body that's considering doing business with an entity, you don't, go to that entity or a related entity's event and take pictures of yourself there. And when I looked it up, I saw that it was a private event, not open to the public, and that's what really registered some concern for me because if members of the public can't go, then by definition, that's some exclusive benefit that's being received that not every member of the public could get.
You said before that the Sports Authority's decision not to vote happened by September 2023, right?
Well, it didn't sound like it was a decision by the board, the Sports Authority board. I just want to,
Yep.
Well, the Sports Authority Board declined to vote on,
they did it.
And
It
it was
wasn't on the agenda.
It was
was on
before the end
Oh.
of Mayor Cooper's term, so I just.
so I guess what I'm saying at was, so by September of 2023, you thought the deal was dead?
Yes,
Well, he attended this event in November of '23, right?
right.
So was there still any ongoing business between them and NASCAR at that time, or was this, what was the status of the proposed project?
Right, so the answer was not to my knowledge, because I had already sort of exhaled at that point, and to the question that you asked Ms. Lanier earlier, at that time, I didn't think necessarily that, I thought it was an ethics violation at the time, but I didn't think it was one that merited filing a complaint about, because I didn't know of any pending business with Speedway Motorsports or NASCAR in front of the Fair Board at that time.
Did you believe at that time that NASCAR was done with its interest in the expansion?
The truth is, I didn't know. They've spent several years trying to get this project done. I was hopeful that after failing at the end of Mayor Cooper's term, Mayor O'Connell would come in and just kind of say, this isn't going to be my priority, and that Speedway Motorsports would say, okay, well, we'll go somewhere else where we're wanted. And that has not happened.
Okay, and you attached, there's a declaration in the materials, and Exhibit 3 of that declaration just has some photos of the event. And you say it was a black tie event, exclusive, is that right?
Yes.
Is
I mean,
this-
it was an awards show, basically. And they televised it afterward. And that's why, when I went to the website that said NASCAR Banquet at Music City Center in Nashville, it said, private event, but tune in to whatever, NBC or NBC Sports or something to watch it later.
All right, so there are two things that happened. You heard about the illegitimate special interest group, and then you saw Mr. Hendricks at an event for, he was chair, I think, by that time, of the fair board, attending a glamorous NASCAR event. And you also seem to say that, well, there wasn't any, to your knowledge, any active business, but you're also willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. Was that part of your thinking when these events happened?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of Chairman Hendricks' long affiliation with NASCAR that he talked about today. But, if there's not pending business in front of the Fair Board, then I was hoping it was maybe a lapse of judgment, but not actionable from my perspective.
Okay, I'm gonna move up. Are there any other questions? I'm gonna move, okay.
Because you believed at that point, after September, you believed that if NASCAR was going to proceed with its proposal, that it would have to go back to the Fair Board again for a new vote. Was that your understanding at that time? Or did you see the 3-2 vote from March of '23 pending on hold, probably not going forward, but we'll see what the new mayor wants to do?
I thought that, given the lack of political will to get that deal done as it was considered in March by the Fair Board, and I didn't see the political will getting any better under the new administration, I thought they would have to go back with some different deal and kind of start over again.
So I don't want to mischaracterize what you said before about whether if there wasn't a pending, or if there wasn't pending business before the Fair Board related to the expansion of the racing or the proposal, then Hendrick's attendance at that private event was, or how would you characterize it? It wasn't a big deal, it wasn't actionable, it wasn't an ethics violation, like what would you call it?
I would say it was, from my perspective, it was still a violation of the $100 ticket rule, no matter what. I didn't choose to bring it up at the time. I think without pending business with Speedway Motorsports, Inc. and NASCAR, then that takes away the piece of it where an reasonable outside observer would think that he was compromised in his official duties. Because if his official duties don't involve considering a NASCAR proposal, then I guess it doesn't matter that much if he goes to NASCAR events.
I have a clarifying question. So if I'm understanding correctly, at the time, you thought that it was likely an ethics violation, but because there was no pending business, you thought maybe that was not that big of a deal. But then my assumption, I'm trying to understand and put it together, hearing in 2025 that there could potentially be a deal, then made you go back to reflect to say, hey, that means that there was still pending business that I just didn't know about?
Yeah, I mean, and the truth is, I screenshotted the tweets back then. And so, I mean, I was aware that there is a chance that this would come up and be relevant in the future, but not until this fall, when all of a sudden there was discussion about this new deal and how everybody's going to love it. It's not been on a Fair Board agenda, but it's been in the media and in the ether, I guess, the chatter. Did I go back and reflect on that and think, okay, well, that really is a problem if he's in cahoots with this interest group and is considering this deal and is frankly, apparently having discussions about a deal outside the public, process.
But you were concerned enough to, you took an image
I took a screenshot.
in '23, when you saw it, you took an image and,
Yes.
and saved it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that was 23, and fingers have been crossed from you and other people of like mind. And then in mid-24, did chatter start coming around, whether it's in the media or whether it's the courthouse crowd, about maybe a new deal in the works, or can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, I'm getting my timeline confused. In the summer of 2024, August maybe, there was conversation, chatter is the only way to put it, sort of
Yeah.
talking to reporters, talking to, I don't know, council members, just people that talk to each other inside Metro, that there was still some appetite, maybe by the mayor's office, to move forward with Speedway Motorsports' proposal for the fairgrounds.
And some of these same groups that had opposed before, whether it was environmental, neighborhood, did they begin to organize again?
Yes, that's when we really decided that we needed to build more of a coalition approach. And so we made some outreach to various neighborhood groups. There were a few environmental groups too, because the Browns Creek watershed is a really important part of that parcel. And NASCAR, from our perspective, would be really environmentally hard on that property. And so this coalition formed and sort of put all their logos on letterhead to say, we would like to have a public process and urge the mayor to commit to holding a public process to consider various uses for that property going forward.
Okay. And in August 20th, I think there might have been a typo in some of the materials that did the 25th. It was actually August 20, 2025. The coalition actually made a statement, isn't that, do you recall that at all?
Yeah, and so a second ago you said 2024.
Yeah, I think the rumors, I was asking if the rumors kind of started
Right.
in mid-2024.
Right,
But then,
so then we sort of stepped up a little bit of our organizing, and then in 2025, put out the statement calling for this public process, and I think it was August 20th, 2025 that we put out that statement.
okay. And did discuss a referendum at all in terms of changing the charter to?
Yeah, I mean, the request here, one of the things that has hamstrung decision makers about the fairgrounds for a long, long time is there are these protected uses in the charter. And so you can't say we're not gonna have racing at the fairgrounds, arguably, unless, you either have to come up with some creative way to have racing at the fairgrounds along with everything else, or you need to take it to the voters and have a referendum to remove it from the charter.
Okay.
How long ago had the referendum been to remove racing that failed?
I think it was in 2011, I believe, that's my recollection.
2011, there was a referendum that protected
Passed.
racing for the first time.
So that's when racing got put into the
Right.
charter.
Right,
2011?
Yes, as a protected use.
failed from his perspective. I mean,
The
protected racing.
charter amendment passed,
Charter amendment passed and protected racing, okay.
yeah, and since then, it's become much harder to amend the charter, there's a higher vote threshold.
Okay. So it sounded like things were getting serious. Did you make a public records request around that time?
A little, I mean, it was actually after seeing a few stories in the media, so let's come back to that, if you don't
All right.
mind, I will keep it chronological.
Okay, so the same day the announcement was made, there was a news article in the
Nashville Banner.
Go ahead, tell me about that.
That one was the one that really rang the most alarm bells for me, because the premise of that story is there's a new deal coming about NASCAR, and Chairman Hendricks is quoted in that saying, "You're gonna like this new deal, the people will be really happy, the opponents are always gonna be opponents," but, I mean, in that article, he really characterized it from my perspective as a new deal and one that he had details of that addressed the concerns of various opponents and that people were gonna like it.
And then about a week later, Fox News ran a story, is that right?
Yeah, on August 27th, there was a Fox 17 report, and the first thing I noticed about that report was that Scott Couch was the byline on it. And to my knowledge, he is more of an anchor and less of somebody who reports news stories. But the truth is, I don't follow the TV news websites very often, so I could be wrong about that. But I was also aware that Chairman Hendricks is like a political panelist on a show on Fox 17 on a regular basis. And then as part of that story, there was a term sheet included. And, sorry, I should say that show on Fox 17 is hosted by Scott Couch.
So Mr. Hendricks and Mr. Couch had a prior relationship, to your knowledge?
Certainly on camera, I've seen them interact many times before. There was a term sheet that had like the old deal and the new deal, and it was describing all the ways that the old deal had been changed in this new deal, and that was posted as part of the story on Fox 17. That was the first I had ever seen of really sort of concrete evidence that there was something, it had been worked out somewhere. And again, Chairman Hendricks is being quoted in that story talking very favorably about this new proposal that he seemingly already had the details of. And I do take issue with the argument that he made at the beginning that he was just talking about the existing deal. I think it's very clear from the record that he was talking about changes and a new proposal. And in fact, the term sheet that was posted characterized it as a new proposal.
And that term sheet is attached as Exhibit A to Mr. Spraggins' declaration, just in case you want to know. Okay, so you've got a couple of news stories about a new deal, and some quotes from Mr. Hendricks. So then you decided, at that time, did you make a public records request?
Yeah, after seeing those two stories, and it just felt like there was this drumbeat happening, and all of a sudden there was going to be a new, fully baked proposal announced that had been somehow baked out of the public eye with the knowledge of the chairman of the Fair Board. I filed a public records request, pretty narrowly targeted, trying to find out about his emails and text messages on the topic of racing at the fairgrounds from a 7-day period or something. It was narrowly targeted. I sent that, I think, to the law director's office, probably to the clerk's office, and eventually got a response. It included some emails, there were some pro-racing emails, some anti-racing emails, standard stuff that every member of a board might have. And then there were some text messages that appeared to me to be with Matthew Kuhn, whose name
They appear to be, or were they?
I mean, they were. I mean, his name was on them, and NK. And they...
And who is Matthew Kuhn, to your knowledge?
I think he's a lobbyist, registered lobbyist who represents Speedway Motorsports.
Where, by the way, Speedway Motor, they're based here in Nashville?
No, they're, I think, Bristol.
So they're out of state?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think they're
Bristol's in-state or
I
outside?
think they're Bristol, Virginia, not Bristol, Tennessee.
Okay.
But
Can I ask a question about the timeline real quick?
Sure.
Your declaration says that Fox report ran on August 23, and that you filed your public records request on the 25th, but the exhibit shows a date of the August 27th.
yes, I think that means my declaration got the date wrong. The only other way that would be the case is if Fox, when they updated their story
Right,
and
that's what
removed
I
the term sheet.
Well, do you recollect filing the public records request after seeing are you sure it was after the Fox News report?
I would say I am pretty sure it was after the Fox News report, but I would be happy to check that in my emails, so you know.
Well, I was just curious about the timing.
Yeah, definitely,
Because there's a discrepancy.
right.
Okay.
We apologize for some of the typos in the declaration. It could have been after the Banner story and
Yeah.
before the Fox story.
It was certainly after the Banner story, and I guess I won't represent one way or the other if it was before or after the
Okay.
Fox story.
Okay.
I can check my emails and I think I can figure that out.
Okay. And that text, so he was a registered lobbyist with SMI, and can you, by the way, the actual text messages are attached as, look at tab 2, it's Exhibit 9, the actual text messages. And what does the interchange between Mr. Chair Hendricks and Mr. Kuhn, what is that?
Well, to me, the troubling thing about the text messages was on the same day that the coalition had put out its statement, and then the Banner was working on this story apparently about whether there was a new fairgrounds, or new racing proposal for the fairgrounds. Chairman Hendricks had texted the lobbyist for that group and said, okay, I'm getting some media inquiries, and seemed to be reaching out to him for guidance. What do I say? And then the lobbyist is representing to him exactly, what he can say to the media, and talked about how the group, presumably SMI, is working with Cavendish, who's the Banner editor, on a story for tomorrow. So the information sharing between this vendor and the chair of the board, and the sort of effort to kind of steer the messaging about this proposal that's ostensibly going to be a neutral proposal, or a proposal that the Fair Board considers from a neutral perspective, that's what surprised me and gave me further pause.
Can you read the first text into the record? The first text.
So it's Matthew Kuhn, and then there's what appears to be Mr. Hendricks texting a story. Coalition urges Nashville vote on Fairgrounds future over NASCAR plan. That's the coalition that I mentioned earlier. And he says, interesting quote from council member, I believe, Terry Vo, who's the District 17 council member. And then Mr. Kuhn replies on August 20th, in a meeting, call you later. And then, I cannot say for sure if he's replying to that, or if that's, he might have received a call from Mr. Hendricks and couldn't answer it and said, in a meeting, call you later. And then it says, Mr. Hendricks says, I'm being called by media. Mr. Kuhn says, I wouldn't feel the need to say anything. Is Nate calling you? I inferred Nate to be Nate Rao of Axios, who's written about this issue a good bit. Mr. Hendricks says, Banner. Mr. Kuhn says, gotcha, we are working with Cavendish on a story for tomorrow. What's he asking? Mr. Chair Hendricks says that he heard that a deal will be announced within the next few days, and if there's anything I can share. I said, I think the people will be pleased with what is being worked out, but I need to call you back.
Who said, I think, was that Kuhn or Chair?
That was Chair Hendricks.
Chair Hendricks said,
I think the people will be pleased with what is being worked out, but I need to call you back.
he said he heard, though, that there would be a deal.
The reporter apparently told Chair Hendricks,
Okay.
quote, that he heard a deal will be announced within the next few days, and is there anything I can share? Or if there anything I can share, I'm sorry, I can't quite see. And then the lobbyist says, don't share any details, he is fishing for sources. And then the lobbyist says, you might say, you are aware of the conversation and are eager to work with the mayor's office to find a long-term solution for the Speedway. The fairgrounds is at its best when there are a range of uses, including housing, soccer, and the charter protected uses. And then on Saturday, there's a link to a story, which I believe is the Fox 17 story. The lobbyist seems to be sending that to Chair Hendricks. So that's what the texts say. And again, when I reread it out loud, it's that I think people will be pleased with what is being worked out. To me, that implied a level of knowledge of something happening behind closed doors that I wouldn't expect from the board chair or from any board member.
And you said this was a very narrow 7-day request.
Yes.
Based on your reading of the texts, could it be implied that this is not the only conversation that was had between Mr. Hendrick and Mr. Kuhn, for example?
Sure. I mean, I only ask for what I ask for. it was clear to me they had a familiar back and forth going on, and it continues beyond what I could see, probably, because there is a link to that news article about the new deal that's forthcoming.
And one of the things that's alleged in the complaint is that Mr. Hendricks used confidential information in an untoward way, which would include the two-page term sheet of the quote-unquote new deal that Fox 17 showed. And we don't know for certain whether Mr. Hendricks leaked that document to Fox News.
I don't.
Okay. All you know is that you said it's kind of unusual for the anchor to be the reporter of a story,
In my experience,
and that they have a prior relationship.
yes.
Okay.
Can you just say again the prior relationship?
Chairman
The
Hendricks
panel.
is a regular panelist on like a four-person political talk show on Fox 17. And was
That's anchored by,
at the time. And Scott Couch is the anchor of that show.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I have, except I wanted to run through some of the exhibits we have on the pricing of some comparative pricing in terms of the value of the ticket.
okay, just two things before that then. One, do we need to understand anything about the soccer field? Nashville soccer, is it relevant to any of this either way?
I mean, I don't think so, other than to the extent there's a lot of uses on one property, and that creates friction, and, people competing for dates and things like that. But I don't think to understand the ethics issues that I'm trying to raise here, we have to go into, a lot of detail about all that stuff.
Scheduling and things, okay. And then the other is on the exhibits, so you're going to elicit the testimony, or do you want to?
Whatever the chair prefers.
At this point, we can see, I will ask Chair Hendricks if he's had an opportunity to, have you seen the hard copy exhibits? What number is it?
This would be exhibits 5 and exhibit
Well, five is
5 and
the chair.
6 to Mr. Spraggins.
Okay, so it changed.
Sorry.
Can you give us the numbers on the original exhibit list?
So
The exhibit 10 was the gala events price comparison chart.
And that's the one that you said that Ms. Hendricks never got.
Right.
Okay, so
Uh,
these are exhibits 4 and 5 to Mr. Spraggins' declaration, which is in tab 2. Sorry.
Let's work for us, let's work with the complainant's exhibit list if we can.
Oh, the complainant is, I don't think these were exhibits to the complainants. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, so,
Oh, in the,
yeah. So there's the gala event price comparison chart. We all got that exhibit list electronically. We didn't get the chart itself electronically. We had them produced to us today, the
Correct.
clerk's office had, so clearly there was effort to share with all of them with everyone. Do you have any objection? I'll ask if they, okay, and then it's the Music City catering menu prices, and then the Fair Board, public records of the minutes, so you're okay with all of that?
Yes.
Okay, so we have no issue with exhibits, thank you.
Okay.
So you can proceed.
sorry, I didn't understand where you were going, but thank you. Okay, so exhibit 4 and exhibit 5 to Mr. Spraggins' declaration have two comparison events for purposes of trying to assess the value of kind of the Academy Awards in NASCAR, their big award show. So, the award show in Nashville was November 30th of 2023. The award show in 2024 was actually in Charlotte, which also was not open to the public. But there was, that same week, November 22nd, a event that was open to the general public called the NASCAR Awards Insiders Experience, and that price was $249. In addition, Exhibit 5 to Mr. Spraggins' declaration, there is a 2026 class of 2026 Hall of Fame induction event which is open to the public, and the price for that is $537. In terms of those exhibits that were not in the electronic version evidently, Exhibit 10, we just went through some Nashville events and was trying to get an idea of what ticket prices are for various, like CMA awards, charity galas. We just looked throughout the internet to try to find these prices. They ranged from a low of, $160 all the way up to over $1,000.
Yeah, 135 up to.
There's 135.
Yeah,
But
to over 1,000.
Thank you, Mr. Spraggins. And the last exhibit is just showing the price of how much, it's very, very long. We did our legal assistant did an incredible job pulling all this information out. But just sort of what things cost at the venue, which was the Music City Center. And really, depending on how galley you want to be, it's obviously a pretty expensive event if you include wine and all those other kind of things. So with that, I believe we are done with Mr. Spraggins' testimony.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Wait, we have a question here.
I didn't have a question, but I was wondering if it would be helpful for me to provide some clarifying information, because there were questions. Something came up about the Sports Authority and why it was not voted on before the Sports Authority, and it was also mentioned that it did not come before the council. So I was reviewing minutes of all those meetings, and I have that information if that would be helpful for the body to know.
Well, board members are board members, and really you consider the evidence that's presented to you by the parties. Yeah.
And it was from the board minutes that are an exhibit, but we haven't had a chance because of a hard, digital and hard copy. Does the complainant know the answer to this? If it's in the minutes, that a document that you submitted, an
No,
exhibit?
it wasn't in those.
Yeah, I don't think we have Sports Authority minutes in
No,
what we
we do
provided.
not.
You
This
have.
was for the Sports Authority. This was just why the Sports Authority didn't vote. I didn't know
see.
if that was helpful context or not.
I see, yeah. And
Yeah, I mean, generally, board members do not provide testimony,
right,
but they consider the testimony provided by the
okay,
parties.
great. And there may be other witnesses that have that information for us, perhaps Chair Hendricks. Okay, so any other questions for this witness on direct? Okay, then we can go to cross-examination.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Mrs. Spraggins, do you know how I gained access to this event?
Not specifically.
Okay. Do you know what else I did that night?
No,
Because it was on social media too.
not that I recall seeing.
I
recall
attended another black tie event that night with the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. So, also, and I think you answered the question about the exact value. We know no exact value of the ticket if I did receive it. So you don't know. So you're saying you don't even know if I received a ticket.
Well, there weren't tickets for sale to the public, so I don't know how you got in, but there's no way to quantify it. I mean, I think of it as priceless, but I was trying to come up with some way of quantifying it by looking at other events where they had let the public in.
So do you know if any other elected officials attended this event?
No, not off the top of my head, I don't.
Any appointed officials?
No.
Okay. Do you know, did you contact NASCAR to see who were the sponsors of this event?
No.
Also, in the text messages that you read, I believe that you had mentioned that in my text message I said I've been contacted.
Yes.
Do you remember that? So, in your assumption, does that mean that I was contacted by the media, or did I release something to the media?
I believe that you were contacted by the media, and then in response, you released information to the media.
So in that chain of events, so that means that somebody else had access to information. Somebody else had information first. Correct.
A reporter. or had seemingly heard something and called you.
Okay. Can you point to the line where I asked for instructions? Cause I don't think, cause normally when you ask for something, there's a question mark there, like, and I don't know, in the text message that you provided, can you point to where I actually asked for, any kind of direction?
I don't see that question being asked. My inference that I drew from you contacting him and saying you're being called by media and then telling him how you responded, to me, that was at least coordinating your message, if
But
not.
you said I asked, but your claim was that I asked for, so that I mean, so what you're saying, that in your assumption, you're assuming that I'm asking for help.
Yeah, and I don't know if there was a call by you to him before it says, in a meeting, call you later. But you're right, it's my inference I'm drawing from the text messages, which is all I have access to as a citizen, is that you called him, he said, in a meeting, call you later, and then you said, I'm being called by media, as if you were seeking guidance or you wanted to
You
coordinate.
can't read into, like,
You're just asking him his understanding,
Yeah.
let him explain his understanding.
Yeah, so I'm just telling you what I took from this when I read it, and then you told him what you said. So at the very least, it's coordination. I think there was some affirmative effort to coordinate your
and what
message.
violation of Metro Code, if that was the case, which code, which specific answer of the code is that a violation?
I don't know if that standing, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if that standing alone is a violation of K, about, giving reasonable basis by your conduct for the impression that any person can improperly influence or unduly enjoy their favor in the performance of their official duties, or that they're unduly affected by the kinship, rank, position, or influence of any person. I mean, I used to serve on this board, so it's for the board to decide if that coordination alone does it, but certainly in the context of having the information about this new deal that no one else had heard of, and then the messaging and selling the deal, to me, that all gives a good basis there.
But if I was contacted by the media, that meant other people were aware. I was the one unaware, correct?
So you're asking questions, right?
Yeah, so I'm asking questions. So you just said
questions to
that
the witness.
I was aware of something, but earlier you stated, and we read that, I stated I was contacted by the media. Like, trying to figure out, understand, like, what is going on, right? Like, so, that was, the message said. Now you read into it differently, but now you're saying that, I'm just trying to get clear, like, which one, what is it? Do you feel that I was received information before, or do you believe the text, you read a text message that said that I was expressing concern about being contacted,
Well,
that there was information out there that I did not know.
certainly it seems like the media had heard that there was something happening on the NASCAR deal front and contacted you. He gave you some advice about what to say. You didn't necessarily take that advice according to the news stories, because you went on at some length about this new deal that hadn't been released publicly and how good it was gonna be. And so I'm sure that the media had heard a rumor about it, but from my vantage point as a citizen, you had information that other people didn't have, and you started talking about it publicly.
Any other question?
No, that's it.
No other question on cross? Do we have any other questions for this witness? Then would you like to do any redirect
No,
of this
thank you.
witness? Okay, so then we can excuse the witness, thank you.
Thank you.
That includes, is that Rita?
Just a
Go
minute,
ahead.
please. Sorry.
Yes, go ahead. Okay.
I just have a question just
Yes.
to the board now regarding what is deemed confidential, what discussions can be had outside of the public. And then, I guess,
shall we, when we finish the evidence, if that's okay with you, and then we can, that's a really relevant question. The legal memo did address it to some extent. The law memo, if you have a copy of that to review. But why don't we, and we can also, that may be a question you want to ask the witness as well, okay? So, case in chief, any additional witnesses?
No more witnesses.
No more witnesses, okay. So the complainants have completed their case in chief, which now allows the respondent, Chair Hendricks, if you'd like to take the witness stand and be sworn in.
Okay.
We've been going for a little over an hour. Do we wanna take another break? I'm fine
I
with
was
continuing.
going to see how long this goes and then take a break before closing arguments. Is sort of the plan, a little bit longer if we can, unless anyone needs a courtesy break now. Everyone okay? All right.
Mr. Hendricks, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess at this point, we can ask questions of the witness who's just been sworn, already. And you are under oath, so now we will ask questions, because there are things that we've heard, but that we haven't heard testified to. Can you explain to us the NASCAR event, and how you got it, and what your view is of the monetary value?
Yes, so I think we need to do a clear distinction of NASCAR, like what NASCAR really means in this conversation. There is no NASCAR deal. There never was a NASCAR deal.
Okay, let's just
So NASCAR really has nothing to do with this conversation or with the deal. So the deal that we agreed to.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. Let me start again. Let's just talk about the first claim is that you received something in value.
They never proved that. I asked, how did I obtain access?
Well, but I'm actually now, I want to know from you, since you know how you obtained access. Tell us how you obtained access to the event.
Yes, so I received a pass. So this event was attended by several state persons, several state. I actually attended the event with a particular commissioner in the state.
Can you tell us?
That was up to them to prove.
No.
You know, so they have to approve. So that's what I'm saying. They brought this case. They brought this stuff up, and they have no clue as to how. So this was nothing to do with my participation as a fair board member. This has nothing to do with, my involvement with anything here in Nashville, me attending this event. Also, again, I stated I was a part of 23XI's racing pit crew back in earlier in the year in July, who is one of their star racers is Bubba Wallace. I was there with Bubba Wallace.
Yep.
So because I have a relationship, with them. Also, NASCAR has had several HBCU events here in Lebanon that I helped them to organize. I helped them to organize health fairs, like I stated before, at Tennessee State at the Avon Williams Center, as I've done events with them across the country.
So I'm gonna just, sorry to interrupt, but, so we are hearing.
So this was through my relationship with 23XI Racing.
Yes, we are hearing that evidence. You are helping us understand.
Yes.
Your longstanding relationship with racing, with all of this. We hear that. So the question though, and that you had been to the event maybe in 21 and 22, you implied?
I've been, yes.
So
I've
you've
been
been
several,
going
so
to
I
this?
was.
So the question.
I have a relationship with 23XI Racing, so that's the answer. That's how I got there.
And they're related to?
That's Michael Jordan's racing team.
Okay, and and that's NASCAR.
And so I was there, and as you saw those photos that I was with Bubba Wallace and another racer from 23.
Okay, so we're gonna ask, we have a very narrow focus here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, did you get invited solely because you were chair of the fairgrounds?
No.
You're saying no, and you're showing us you had a long-standing relationship, you'd been going for years, and you weren't invited because of any ongoing deal before. But
Correct.
still, there is a question, and we take evidence, circumstantial evidence is something we can consider. They have presented documentation to us around these types of events, the galas, like, did you eat food while you were there? Like, while you were at the, got a lot of stamina. Did you eat and consume anything, food or drinks, while you were there? I mean, that's a yes or no. That's a fact question.
Right, and no, I didn't. I actually, no, I was there for a very short, brief time because Flo Rida was the entertainment. Flo Rida is a rap artist. So when I arrived there, he was actually about to perform. So I was there for his performance, and then I left and went to my next event.
So, how
And because
much-
Flo Rida is also a part of the racing team. So I was there really to support the racing crew, the racing team that I have been working with.
And how long would you say you were at this event?
Maybe an hour and a half, because I also live downtown, so I walked there and I walked to the other event. So I live within proximity of Music City Center. So I go to a lot of events at Music City Center. So yes, I was there maybe in an hour, maybe hour and a half, but not long at all.
Okay, I do have a question. I wanna go back to what when you first started talking, and you said NASCAR, they don't have to do with each other. And
No.
So NASCAR, what is NASCAR's role, if any, in the expansion of fairgrounds?
Nothing. So if you go back to the contract that we approved in 2023, SMI Speedway Motor Sports to attract at least one NASCAR race every 2 years, and that's the only thing about NASCAR. In that, and then also with that, in doing those public comment periods, I also say that I've been talking with NASCAR because people raise concerns about, oh, NASCAR. It's like, no, we still have the track is still only a half a mile long. That doesn't change. We have the second oldest racetrack in the country behind Milwaukee's, the Milwaukee Mile, right? So if we make any changes to that, that changes that historic designation. So the racetrack itself will stay at a half a mile. You can't get those big cars. You know, that still doesn't attract those big cars. So guess what NASCAR is doing? They're looking at EVs. They're looking at electric vehicles. There are a lot that makes less noise. We've also have a part of that deal is to put up a sound wall around it, so it then reduces the sound that's going into the neighborhoods. So NASCAR is not. Yeah, it was the deal was they will try, and there was still no guarantee. They said they will try to attract a NASCAR race once every 2 years. Yes.
What is Speedway Motorsports?
So they are the operators of several racetracks across the country. They're based in Bristol, Tennessee. And so they also operate the racetrack in Lebanon, here, right outside of Nashville. But they operate several other tracks across the country, racetracks across the country.
And the proposal that was voted on by the Fair Board in March of '23, voted 3-2, was with the
Speedway,
Speedway.
Yes.
And
not
just
NASCAR,
Speedway,
right. Bristol
Motor
Motorsports, right.
Sports.
And you were not at this event as a guest of Speedway Motorsports?
No,
Is that
I
what
was
I'm
not.
hearing you say?
Correct.
Oh, I had another question. You said you had a relationship with 23XI.
Yes.
Were you there as their invited guest?
Yes. I received a pass, yes.
And what is 23XI?
That's the racing team that's owned by Michael Jordan and a couple other people. So they, have relationships with HBCUs, try to diversify racing a little bit more. So Bubba Wallace is their number one, but they also have Rand Carthon, who just won the truck race, the NASCAR Truck Cup. He's a Winston-Salem State University graduate. So they've been trying to diversify So they have, a large number of African-American pit crew members. And so we do recruitments at HBCUs, just explaining like there's different pathways, to being involved in racing.
Does 23XI have any sort of business relationship with Speedway Motorsports or Bristol Motors and or NASCAR?
Other than that, they are a racing team. So, that's all I would know is that they are a racing team, but they don't, they're not active involved. I'm going to be honest with you, they didn't even know that I was chair of the fair board. Like, they had no clue. It's because I wear so many hats, so they don't even know that I am, that I am the chair of the fair board until all of this started, coming up, because we're friends. We're, I've done a lot of business, and I don't include everything. Because if I give them my resume, I tell you, I sat there and listened to y'all what I did, but I don't go around talking about that. So, my role with them is to help them fulfill their commitment with it, which is increasing diversity, because there was a lot that happened. You remember when Bubba Wallace had the noose incident, and so there were a lot of things that people were doing to try to say that racing is not racist, and that there are a lot of African Americans that are working in racing that are thriving in racing. And so I've been helping them with, that image, problem, since then, actually prior to, I think it dates back to when I was looking through my emails, I think I can go back to 2014, with emails between me and the head of diversity of NASCAR, who's actually a Nashville native, but yeah, so they had no clue that I, operate in this capacity as fair board chair.
When you were at the event, did you see anyone from Bristol Motors Speedway?
Yes, I did see them.
Who
yes.
did you see?
Jerry.
Jerry?
Caldwell, who's the head of Bristol Motorsports. So I ran into him.
When you say head, like CEO or?
Yes, he's the CEO.
Jared Caldwell.
Caldwell.
You ran into him.
But I also ran into Bruschetta, the guy who owns the racing here. What is it called? Big Machine. Yes, Big Machine. Yes. So I also ran into him. And because Jerry introduced me to him and said, "Oh, here's Jasper. You should meet him." And then I went on, about my business. So we shook hands, and I left. I also ran into Commissioner Bryson, from who's the Secretary of Finance, of the state of Tennessee. I've also, and talked to him. Several members of the governor's staff was there. I talked with them because I work with them. I work in the legislature, so which I'm on unpaid leave right now to sit here, to be here. So, yeah. So I ran into, I did run into them and I did say hello, but they weren't while I was, there.
There was no substantive conversation.
No, not at all.
Question.
Yes.
The ex posts that you have that we were looking at in Exhibit 1, I guess. Can you tell me who are the guys who are in the picture with you?
So one was Bubba Wallace, and the other one is who's actually a special needs driver that just came out. That's another part of their diversity, effort. So he was, and so he received an award that night also.
Yes.
I just had a couple of clarifying questions. I'm not clear if you were saying that the pass was given to you by a state commissioner or by 23.
Oh no, I said I ran into him. That's who I mentioned. I'm saying Commissioner Bryson. So I said I was with him also. I ran into him. And I just wanted to put context when she said if I saw someone from Bristol. But yes, I did run into Jerry, but I also ran into Commissioner Bryson, who was what I was speaking of before, and also several other members of the team. But my access came through 23XI Racing.
Okay, and 23XI is a racing company that has some relationship with Bristol or with NASCAR or with both?
They are a NASCAR team.
Okay, they're a NASCAR team, okay. And then, just two more questions. As a board member, do you have to disclose when you receive, any type of gift, like even if there's no business before you, do you have to like disclose gifts?
Yeah, we're required to, yes,
Okay.
but I actually don't make it a practice. That's why I said, well, who is it that I received this? Because if there is some, like recently I just took a trip to Chicago. I was invited by Google to attend a state policy summit. Because Google employs lobbyists, I could not accept the trip. I paid for it out of my pocket because I needed to learn what the policy was. So I'd stay away from it. I know exactly what I'm supposed to and not supposed to do. So no, I don't even make it a practice of accepting anything from anyone that's closely related to my business, me doing business.
Completely understand. Was this pass disclosed?
To that, no, because it was a pass that was given to me. You know, so this was, as they mentioned, it was a televised event. So it was televised for Paramount TV. So to me, I didn't even know that there was hey, as they do when they come to town, hey, Jasper, do you want to come with us, to, event? Like, and I'm like, oh, sure, like, they're going to be in town. Like, we went shopping in the Gulch earlier, with a couple of the wives, showing them jewelry stores. Like, I'm that person for them. It's like they're coming to town. I actually try to show them, like, what's Nashville. So I didn't think that I would because there was nothing related to, my role, or anything that I do outside of me just being their friends.
Okay, thank you. And I just have one last question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you have a long history of working with NASCAR. Did anyone advise you, did Metro Legal advise you, or did you seek counsel from Metro Legal to determine if you needed to recuse yourself from any vote dealing with Bristol, since Bristol and NASCAR have a relationship?
Yeah, there was a discussion early on in the process, actually when I first joined the board. So, because I that's one thing, I don't know if y'all have the ability to, but if you call Mayor Cooper and ask him what was the process like, getting me to join this board, I walked in his office with a binder of things that I found, and I was like, hey, if I'm gonna join this board, like, these are and we went through, step by step. And so before I even joined the board, there were several questions because of prior relationships that I have.
So you were...
and they said it was fun because this deal and like I said, it had nothing to do with NASCAR. It was, and again, and if you look at the deal, there was still no promise of NASCAR. It is, they will try, to do a NASCAR race once every 2 years.
When did you join the board?
In 2022. It was like COVID. It was like running. It's like running together.
And the notebook you brought to Mayor Cooper was filled with your existing involvements and
Oh,
engagements?
no, it was like, I had went back and researched the Fair Board. Okay. I was like, and looked at all the stuff that they had pending before them. I had articles. I had, prior contracts, prior deals that they have. Like, the fairgrounds is 300 acres. There's a lot that's happening over there. And so I wanted to know about the soccer deal. I wanted to know about, because we're building a soccer stadium, I wanted to know about the mixed use. He even showed me that he had sketches where he, what his vision of the fairgrounds were. Like, we had a
about conflicts of interest.
Oh yeah, because because they have so many deals, part of that was, okay, well, I'm involved in this. Do you see this as an issue? I'm involved with this. Will this be a potential issue? So
was it the mayor's office told you it wasn't a conflict, or
yeah, but it was everybody was in the room together. So we had it was a discussion. So can't remember exactly who all was in that room. We were not by ourselves. So because, like I said, he had a whole presentation of what he would like to see he wanted to be a food truck. Like, everybody come around and go to food truck things. And so it was like, it was that type of discussion. So I don't know exactly who the exact persons that were in there, in that meeting, but we were not by ourselves. So I'm pretty sure that was legal because I asked.
Okay, but no one advised you at that time that you would need to recuse yourself because of your relationship with NASCAR?
That's correct.
Okay.
I have a question. I thought Councilmember Porterfield was asking about your understanding of when you need to disclose gifts. And I just need some clarity of, like, gifts from whom? Like, when
Right.
If you're receiving a gift from anyone, you have to disclose it, or a gift
Oh,
from
no,
someone who
from
has.
anyone who has the potential to do any kind of business, I stay away from it. But you're not supposed to take any gifts, and it's not $100. I thought it was $25.
It's $25 food
Yeah.
or wine.
So yeah, so that's why I said it's like $25. I ain't gonna buy my own. But I ain't going to jail with $25. But it's like, but it was to my understanding, is anyone that has any kind of business that will be before us, you know, and that could potentially have business before us.
Your understanding is you can't accept gifts of any value.
That was my because the threshold is so low. So I'm like, you can't buy a loaf of bread for $25 now. So
Okay. So let's move on to a different issue if there's no more questions relating to that.
Two questions. When did you initially begin dealing with NASCAR? Was that the 2021 date that you?
dealing with NASCAR? No, I go back to like 2014. Really, like I mean, I probably could find emails longer than that. I mean, just working on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Mm.
Okay. Talk to us about your understanding of the vote, March 2023. There was a vote with Bristol Myers. It passed narrowly at the Fair Board. Just walk us through it. What happened with the bonding? What was your understanding? Why did it not get to council? Help us understand.
Well, at the time, the mayor, because we've had the public hearings, we had several public hearings. We've had people come in and bring input. So it's our understanding that they wanted to combine all of that some of that public input and try to figure out how to make tweaks to it. And so the current mayor said, well, he didn't have time to go through all of that, you know, to
Wait,
fix.
slow down, you're going too fast. So the vote happened in March of '23.
Yes.
Do you have any knowledge about why the Sports Authority did not vote on the bonding?
Because I believe they were notified that there needed to be tweaks to it, to the deal.
You were vice chair of the board at that time,
Yes,
right?
correct.
But your understanding is that
Correct.
the Sports Authority wanted to tweak.
No, not the Sports Authority. I think they were told, the mayor's office wanted to tweak.
I see.
They wanted
Okay.
to make some adjustments before they issued the bond.
Okay, that was your
Yeah,
understanding.
before they voted on a bond, yes.
Did you understand what the nature of the tweaks were? Generally.
Other than we heard public input, and I'm the type of board president. When I took over as board chair, I changed the rules to allow anybody to come in and make public comment about anything. Where before you could only speak if it was something relevant to the agenda that we were going to be voting on. So I was pushing transparency, and so when they said there were people who had complaints, people would like to please as many people as possible. Right, knowing that this is a public asset, and so hearing those comments, they wanted to make sure that they were appeasing the majority, you know, of people and trying to make. This is to my understanding. They wanted to make those tweaks. They heard complaints about noise. They heard complaints about Browns Creek, you know, and what it could do to Browns Creek. And so that's why I say we spent over $1 million, you know, since I've been board chair in making sure that Browns Creek is preserved and that it remains safe. So things started happening to address, you know, some of the.
When did you become board chair?
2023. It was after. It was when.
Was Mayor Cooper still mayor?
Yes, he was, because Sherry Weiner was the chair,
Right,
and she left to run for city council.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what was your understanding of the status of the approved, board-approved agreement when the new administration came in?
That they were gonna take a look at and see what the next steps would be. And that's the only thing I knew at the time, that he was taking a look at it, which is why March, April, it was actually on the exact 2-year anniversary of our date this year, is when I led the discussion with the Fair Board members at a Fair Board meeting, saying if we don't hear anything from the mayor's office soon, we're gonna have to revisit this.
March of 2025.
Of this year, yes, ma'am. Because we didn't know. We had no communication from the mayor. I didn't know. And I actually didn't know anything until I was contacted by the reporter that he was even close to doing anything. You know, because, and that's how I said, we were having discussions because we were acting in the blind. Because it's just, to my knowledge, it's just been sitting on his desk for 2 years. You know, and so, but also as the board chair of an entity that is, that it receives a $2 million subsidy from the government. I started from the city. I started having conversations that said because of our current political climate that we're in, and we have less federal dollars coming into the state, and the potential even less. I asked our board members at the end of the day, if the city had $2 million left, what do you think they should do? Fund the Fair Board or fund education? I asked them this in the meeting. You know, and I said, so me as the board chair, I said, we have to think about how do we become self-sufficient, because that is our goal. And so we had that conversation at the 2-year anniversary. And then that's when I started getting chatter, oh, the mayor may be close to a deal. He may be close to a deal. Because I told him, we're going to have to think about what we're going to do. If we don't hear anything from the mayor's office, then we may have to go back to the table and say, hey, what is it that we need to do with this property? Because it's losing money. It's not ADA compliant. You know, you have to go to the men's restroom, you have to walk down 3 stairs. You know, that's not ADA compliant. Like, something has to be done with the property. We're building all this new stuff around it. We have a new speedway alley, and then we have a facility that hasn't been touched for years. It doesn't make any sense. We put housing. There's affordable housing next to it that's soundproof. You cannot hear anything on the inside when there's activities going on. But we have this old dilapidated thing that's continuing to fall. The scoreboard doesn't even work. You know, and so so I said, we have to start making these decisions, you know, then, and that's the conversation I led, you know, saying we have to think about, it's been 2 years. Okay. Do we wait another 2 years, or do we have to figure out what to do now? Like, and that's whether it's a racing or whether it's to go back to the community. Like, I told them to think about it. Like, think about what our next steps could be, you know, during that meeting.
Can you tell us, you heard on the complainant's case that there was, at some point in 24, there was a coalition forming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you were quoted in the evidence presented, speaking disparagingly about a coalition in opposition of the expansion. Can you tell us about that?
Oh yeah, because they went to the mayor, and so when I said, when you're asking me as the Fair Board chair, no, they've never talked to me. The first step is to go to the Fair Board.
Did you make the statement that?
Oh, I said it was an illegitimate group, yes, because we didn't know anything about them. I had no idea. We have no idea who this group was, but they're making proposals to the mayor about what we need to do, you know, as a board. And so I'm like, but wait a minute, but nobody's come and talked to us as the board. You went straight to the mayor. So we don't know if this is a community group. We don't know if this is financed by, you know, whomever. You know, it may be. We have no idea. We had no idea who this group was.
Was March 2025 the last time you as chair had a discussion with your board about the fairgrounds?
No, we have meetings every month. We meet every month. We have a meeting every month, and every month there's a discussion. We have updates from all of our campus partners, all of our development that's going on. So we're constantly talking about how we can improve, you know,
but I mean
the
about
fairgrounds.
the racing expansion, the proposal.
No, because
the last time you talked about that was March.
Because when I brought this up in March, and then when I mentioned in the media that nobody's come talk to us, they sent 4 people to the meeting.
Who did? Who sent
the anti-racing people sent 4 people to the meeting, and they all gave individual statements in front of the press, and then they left.
In March of 25?
No, this was, what's this month?
This is
November. No, maybe the September meeting.
Okay, so that's more recent.
Maybe the September meeting, yes.
Okay,
but you said that was the last time.
Okay.
Because they stood up and one by one gave their statement.
Okay.
And then they left before we could even have any kind of discussion.
Okay. But prior to that, prior to August, you spoke with your board members in March of 2025 and basically said the deal is on the mayor's desk. nothing's happening, if nothing breaks soon, we're gonna have to do something, we're gonna have to revisit this in some way.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then, tell us what happened with these communications in August of 2025.
Oh, I got contacted by the media, and I'm like, WTF? Like, I was like,
And the media was, Banner, the
the
Banner.
banner, but then I have emails. I also submitted some emails where some reporters were emailing me saying that they've heard that a deal was in the works, and so I contacted the lobbyists like I'm getting calls. Like, what is this about? Like, my thing was, what is this about? Like, So I was blindsided.
From the media, what did you hear from the media?
that they heard that the mayor was close to a deal.
Did you contact the mayor's office?
No, because we are assigned, so this is not our first communication, so their people, they prefer to talk, the way that they operate is, they talk to people, they have certain people that they sort of assign to you to like talk, and like if you have any questions, if it's, so.
Who was your person that you was
It
assigned to?
was Matthew.
No, I mean the mayor's office.
Oh, in the mayor's, they don't have, it's not a specific person in their office. They have people, whatever project is working on, it's kind of a convoluted little thing. But no, I did not contact the mayor's office. I contacted the person who's supposed to be keeping us informed.
The
As the next
lobbyist
step,
is supposed
yes.
to keep you informed about
Yes.
what the mayor's office is doing?
About their, it's their deal. It's their,
Whose deal?
this, Bristol Motorsports.
Deal with whom?
With, they were the ones that were working with the mayor's office.
They were working with the mayor's
Yes.
office. Do you know who in the mayor's office they were working with?
I don't know, no.
So the mayor's office and Kuhn were working, the lobbyists for
Yes.
Bristol Motor, were working on a deal. You weren't involved in it?
No, ma'am.
You didn't have any meetings about it?
No, ma'am.
They were working on a deal. You were waiting
Right.
to hear what was happening,
Yes.
and then
And then I get a call from a reporter.
it says it's about to happen.
It's about to happen. And I'm like, WTF. Like, what? And if you notice in my text, I said, I didn't ask him a question. I said, I've been contacted by the media, but this is what I said. And so, because I was caught off guard, I'm like, someone should have.
Okay, so hang on a second. So I've got the August 20th Banner article in front of me. And it quotes you as saying that there'll be more to share over the next few days. Did you tell them that?
Because that's what he told me. He told me that that they heard something was going to be happening over the next few days, and I said, "Well, look forward to the next few days."
That's what who told you?
The Banner reporter.
So the Banner
reporter called me, as they stated earlier, and said, "We hear that the mayor is close to a deal."
Did you understand they were talking directly to the mayor's office?
Who? I don't know. I don't know who they were talking to.
Right, but what I'm reading in the article, I'm reading Hendricks, a supporter of racing at the Fairgrounds Nashville, said there would be more to share, quote, over the next few days.
Yeah, because if they're saying that he's close to it over the next few days, then I guess you're gonna have to wait for the next few days.
So what you're saying is that quote was basically you confirming, or you saying, well, because you're saying the Banner was the source of that information, right?
Yeah, and I've received several calls. From several news outlets. So that wasn't the only news outlet. That's the only one they provided, but there were several articles that were written and also were on the news around that time. And so I happened to speak to the Banner, and I was actually, because I was on my way on vacation, that's the only reason why I answered the phone. I didn't know who it was. And so when he said, I heard that there will be something over the next few days, I said, well, I guess you're gonna have to wait for the next few days. I have no idea.
I have a question.
Yes.
In the text message between you and Matthew Kuhn, that's how you pronounce it, in response to him asking, he says, gotcha, we are working with Cavendish on the story for tomorrow. What's he asking? You said that he heard that a deal would be announced within the next few days, and if there's anything I can share. And then you said, I think the people will be pleased with what is being worked out, but I need to call you back. What are you referring to when you say you think people will be pleased with what's being worked out?
That if they're working on something, I'm sure it's something, knowing this mayor, that the people will, just like he just did with TPAC. I don't know what he's gonna do, but I'm sure that when he gets done with it, it's gonna be what people, it's gonna be, people may like, will probably like it. Like, I have no clue what, and also doesn't say, I do press and PR for political people too, so sometimes I come off and I'm giving points and talking points. I have no clue. The man's calling me blindsided.
But
Like,
I have a follow-up question. So then Matthew says, don't share any details, he is fishing for sources. Why would Matthew tell you not to share details if you didn't have any details?
because we hadn't had a chance, we haven't talked, so I don't know what this guy is saying. So I started talking about how like the deal, I started actually talking about using the talking points that we had for the deal for 2023. Because I don't know if anything changed. And so what we were saying in 2023, to me, still applies today. That there's no taxpayer funding, involved. That the citizens will not be on the hook for the construction, which is what we voted on in 2023. I don't know why he said don't disclose details. The only details I would have is that they were supposedly meeting. I don't know.
Well, but the banner article, the banner article seems to state otherwise, right? The banner article from August 20 says specifically Hendricks said the deal would differ from an earlier proposal because, quote, there will be no financial obligation from the city.
That was the same in 2023.
So you're saying the banner just got it wrong that was something?
Or he may have misprinted what I said, but it's the same deal in 2023. There was no obligation from the city. It was a 30-year bond. That's what I know. It was a 30-year bond that BMI, that Bristol Motorsports was guaranteeing for the city to cover the construction of the facility.
When did you first see the document that's been produced by the complainants? That's the comparison of what's called the new deal and the old deal. When did you first see that document?
When they put it in the thing, I have no clue. As you're assuming that I received that document, that I had that document.
You haven't seen that document before this ethics
When
matter?
when I got the FOIA request, when I got the request for my information, and I'm going through communication, and I'm going through just looking at stuff, like trying to figure out what triggers this. I did see an article on the Fox 17 site, because someone sent it to me, that showed that document. But again, I mean, if I received, how did I get the document? Who did I give it to? They're also assuming that it was because Scott Couch is a reporter there, but also the staff at Fox 17, as is all of our news stations here in Nashville, has shrunk. So people are playing multiple roles. These are all assumptions.
Okay, but who sent, you just said you received it at some point from...
Oh, when I was going through this, when I received the FOIA request, I do research. Okay, I'm trying to figure out the root of, why am I being contacted? And someone sent me the article that was on Fox. That was one of the things that they sent, was the Fox 17, but they also sent other articles. They sent all the things that were,
who sent
one of my friends.
I see.
Yeah. So it was because there was an article on Channel 4, Channel 5, the Banner, the Tennessean, all these articles, everybody is talking about this potential deal. But they were contacting me to see if I have not been a part of any conversation.
When you heard there was going to be this deal in a few days, you're saying you heard about it, and you were saying...
Oh yeah, because I have friends that had been called and they were offered jobs by the opposition, and so they called me to tell me that that the CARE organization was offering them money to run campaigns. So that's how initially I said, oh, well, it must be true. If they gearing up for a campaign, it must be true. Because I have several friends that have called that said that they've either hired them to do community outreach work or buy digital ads. I have a friend that lives in another state. His firm was contacted to start doing digital ads against racing. So I'm getting these phone calls from people, saying that because So that's how I figured out something must be on the.
Chair of the Fair Board, and you're hearing that there's a deal, a new deal or a tweaked deal, coming in a few days. Was it your expectation that there would be nothing more for your board to do? That at this point it
Well,
was
we didn't
really
know.
between the mayor's
Yeah,
office and?
yeah. I'm assuming the mayor's office is working it out.
And so it wouldn't come back to you? You
I
thought-
don't know, whatever he does, like, yeah, so it would, I think if it's substantive changes, if it like changes the entire, thing, or if he said, no, I don't want this at all, go back to the drawing board, then yeah, we would have to, but right now, it's on his desk, and it's for him to decide on whether or not it's gonna move forward.
So you understood it as just a tweaked deal, the deal that had already passed your board, and it was just still moving along in its process?
Right, yes, ma'am, yes. And that he's gonna listen to the feedback, and he's gonna take take in concerns and consideration of the citizens, and do whatever what he thinks is best, for the city.
I want to clarify one point. I think Board Member Sabis was asking about a quote in the banner article where you said the new deal wouldn't require any money from the city. Am I paraphrasing correctly? But looking at the term sheet, the prior deal and the new deal, I thought when you responded to Mr. Sabis, you said that the prior deal didn't require any money from the city either.
No, it is.
But the sheet says that there would be a redirect of state and local sales taxes. And then the new deal says Sports Authority revenue bonds backed by rent from Bristol sufficient to make bond payments with offset for redirected state and local sales taxes.
Yes, so that means that Bristol Motors, they will actually be paying the bill at the end of the day.
Right, but the prior deal was not, is that not, that
No,
sounds
that's
different to me.
that's the 2023. No, it's the same. It's the same. They were paying the bond. They were securing the bond for 30 years. That means they were making the payments for 30 years to cover construction.
Okay, so that's not a new term between the prior deal and the new deal?
No, that was what we voted on in 2023.
It must just be worded differently.
So I'm going to suggest just to, maybe we should actually allow cross-examination on this, because we've been kind of asking our questions, but, yes.
I have one more quick
There will be a
question.
cross-examination, and then we'll have more questions we can ask. But go ahead.
I just have a quick
Yeah.
question. Earlier you stated that the deal was between the mayor's office and between Bristol. When you got contacted by the media and you reached out to Matthew, did you also reach out to the mayor's office, or did you just reach out to the lobbyist?
No, I did. I brought it up. That's the main reason why I brought it up in our Fair Board meeting. But I reached out to the director of our Fair Board. So that's who I communicate with, the director of the fairgrounds, and she hadn't heard anything, and that's when I contacted Matthew. Yes.
Okay. But there was no communication to the mayor's office or the administration, but you did reach out to the director of the.
Fairground, yes, because she's the staff person.
Point of contact, okay.
Yes.
And did you understand that, was she working with the mayor's office?
No, she said she had not been contacted by the mayor's office.
But was it your understanding generally that her role would be to?
I would have thought so. That's why I contacted her first. And then when I got the answer that I received, I said, well, let me contact Matthew to see what is going on.
Just one more follow-up, my apologies. And then the text, this was kind of alluded to, but I'm still just not real clear on it. I think the people will be pleased was being worked out. If you didn't have any knowledge of what was being worked out, I guess what was the context of you saying people will be pleased with it?
It was a generic answer that I wanted to give, to say that, if the mayor is working on something, I'm sure that they will be pleased. I'm sure he's working with whomever he needs to work with to make sure that his people are happy, so he won't get political backfire, because he, as stated before, he's had, he's taken certain stances on things and on issues. And so I'm like, if there is a new deal and if he's working on it, I'm sure that whenever he finishes, it will be something that the people will like. To me, it was just a generic answer. Like I said, I didn't know who this person was. I had never talked to the person before that had called me, and I was on my way out of town, and I just wanted to give a generic answer to get out, because normally I don't answer calls that are not in phone, but I just happened to answer that one, and it was like, oh, I have this different, and I'm like,
Why didn't you just say, I don't have any comment, or I don't know the details of the deal?
because to me, that's what I was saying. I'm sure the people, because I didn't have anything else, so that's all I said to him, and I got off the phone.
But when you read the article, that's not really, I mean, you're commenting substantively the way it reads.
Around it, because I wanted to highlight, because first of all, well, not first of all, because I also realized that people have gotten misinformation about the deal that we have in 2023. You know, and that was evident today during some of the testimony, that people don't understand, you know, what actually happened in 2023.
It says, I think people will be pleased, he said, they were able to address quite a few of the major obstacles based on the major concerns that we had, but there's still a couple of minor details to work out. Did you say that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yep.
What was that based on?
That was just based on, again, like I said, I know that the mayor they were supposedly having meetings. And if they were close to a deal, I'm sure they worked on, because like I said, the complaints that people had were not new. Like people, they heard it, and I wanted to make sure people were heard. And that's why I opened up, you know, comment.
Did you later
You know.
hear that the mayor's office spokesperson said, in response to the first
Right.
news story, we are not close to a deal?
We are not close, right, yes.
What did you do when you heard that?
Well, nobody contacted me after that, for that.
Did you contact the mayor's office to see? if they did
Again,
that?
that's when I had the conversation with our fair board. You know, to say that, hey, you know, that's what
That's when you went to the
prompted me.
director.
Yes, with our board. To say, if this is still if it's on the table, if it's in the air, then we're gonna have to figure out next steps. So that's what
That was
prompted
March-
me.
You said that was March 25.
Yeah.
About August 25.
Yeah, it was, so August 25,
We're talking about after these news,
or after the news story?
yeah, after the context, yeah.
Oh, no, because then I started getting FOIA requests.
No, wait,
Oh, after that, I didn't talk to anyone because people and I understood that some of my comments have been taken out of context, and so I didn't, so no, after August, no.
so.
Because I waited till our fair board meeting in September. We were having a fair board meeting in September, and that's when I had the people come in to talk about, you know, what we're doing on our property, and we listened to the opposition.
Right, but I guess I'm just wondering, when you made a statement to the media as chair of the fair board, that it was gonna be a good deal, they took care of some of the concerns that had been there. I think you even say some people won't be happy, but, you know, generally, it's gonna be a good deal, and it's coming out in a few days. When you said that, and then the mayor's spokesperson went to the media and said, actually, no deal. We don't have a deal. What did you do when you saw that inconsistency between your, as chair, public statements and the mayor's office conflicting?
Oh, from that point, I was like, oh, well, this is politics.
What was politics?
This whole process, this whole thing. And so I don't know what their basis of their statement was, you know,
Were you concerned that you had made a misstatement to the public, that the board, there was about to be a deal?
I didn't. They contacted me and said that there was gonna be a deal.
No, I
And so I said, well, you're gonna have to wait for
But
that.
then the mayor's-
But I'm sure that whatever deal is gonna be worked out, if they're working on something, that people will be happy. But then that's why I added, there's always gonna be something that there's gonna be some people that are happy and some people that are upset. I don't know. If I would've had anything, I would've said, well, people would still would've been upset about X, Y, and Z. Or people would be happy with this.
Okay. I think we should move to cross-examination, allow the complainant's counsel.
Take a bathroom break?
Bathroom break, yeah.
Sure.
Are we gonna do a lunch break?
I don't think we need a lunch break, but, well, sure, we'll do a lunch. I don't want to have, if you need a bathroom break, we'll take a bathroom break right now. 5-minute break.